Jeffrey, so there was other supporters there. That was nice to hear. So you felt there was groups there. Now I got a question from the chat room from Casela. He was wondering why small groups, and I guess tie that in. When did you get into the small groups? Was that did you have the presentation, the Q&A, and then small groups? Is that the next part of the step? Is that
Yeah. So basically, I want to preface this comment in this discussion by talking about what the whole purpose of the meeting was. The guise of the meeting was that we were going to be engaging these public officials to kind of make a decision or try to influence the government as we should go take a full throttle approach to this vaccine program, or go somewhere in between, or go easy. But if you take a look at this, if you take a look at that letterhead that's posted on the website.
A great documentation there for anybody that's going to go to another meeting out there. So if you pass this video on after the replay, it would be really good to see. I took a look at that. You have all the documents scanned and what they're going on. So just a little plug there as well. What letterhead are you talking about again that you can find?
Yeah. There was a letterhead from the University of Nebraska. Basically, this is a big research project. And third paragraph down, it says something to the effect that a survey may be given to you to get information about your opinions and knowledge about this topic. They're referring to the H1N1 influenza. Research associated with this project will explore whether and how the views of participants change as a result of thinking about and discussing an issue. Now, why is that important? Because if you go down
psyop thing, huh? It's just kind of like, how can we know people are going to be upset. Let's do a little experiment. This is what I get from what you said. Let's try to figure out how to make people not be worried about and listen to us. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
or am I getting that right
maybe,
or not? Or am I reading too much into it?
It's interesting because if you take a look at, if you go down a little bit further and take a look at the participants, the only people that would, I guess, have anything at stake would be the members of the community, because there were observers from the public health departments. They were basically experts in public health and human services, either at the federal, state, or local level, and they were basically there to be observers, answer any questions. So definitely the surveys weren't there for their gratification. With that being said, it really begs the question, so why did they have us in these large groups? So we started off in a very large group. We were very vocal. There are a lot of people kind of scratching their heads going, wow, I didn't know all this about the vaccine process. I didn't know this about the ingredients that were included. I didn't know it could be so harmful. I didn't know it wasn't tested properly, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the list goes on and on. So after we got done hammering Captain Ray Strikus, they took a break, and then they broke us up into these smaller groups. And these focus groups were basically intended to have a discussion, if you will, and mark down all the finer points as to our arguments. So should we go fast or slow? And I guess I could go through those if you'd like. But
I got a question here. This is something to make clear to folks, and this is something I read earlier. The options were full speed ahead or take it easy, but take it easy was still a lot of vaccinations. There was no talk really of other ways of dealing with the program, maybe like vitamin D or anything of that nature.
No. The only options were to go full throttle with a max vaccine program, to go like a medium approach, or to go easy.
What's that mean exactly? Go easy. What were they? Did they define that? It's kind of like, whoa, there. What's it mean?
Yeah, they defined that, and I have that here in my documents as far as the approach. But they definitely defined that, and the go easy approach was something to the effect that I can read it verbatim. It says the description for illustration. With this approach, a few extra sites for vaccination are planned. The goal is to meet an expected low public demand for vaccine, and to do so throughout the flu season without rushing to vaccinate early on. Program activities in the area of communication, volunteer involvement, partnerships, and safety, disease, and coverage monitoring will be slightly increased over those undertaken during a regular flu season.
Okay, so a couple more boosts and everything like that. So that's that. So they were talking about that. So those were the options. Let's get back now. I don't know if I can get this back to where we're heading with the smaller groups. So you had the question A. You said all hell broke loose, or of some of that nature, or something like that. A lot of questions, and there was a lot of people that had concerns about the vaccines. And then this was planned to go into small groups already, correct? This was already part of the whole issue, correct? They were.
Yes, if you take a look at their agenda, it was already planned to put people into small groups, and they had these third-party mediators from Keystone come in. And it was kind of a quote-unquote roundtable discussion, and I have no doubt that there were certain people planted in there based on the fanatic ways they answered some of these questions. But they also had these, like I believe the head of the Department of Health for Denver in my meeting as well. He just kind of sat back and kind of watched over the meeting while this third-party mediator was going over these questions. And so basically, he wrote down different points, and then at the end of these small group meetings, we were supposed to determine whether a specific bullet point was leaning towards a more fast approach, or a medium approach, or a slow approach. And so you can kind of see the tables were kind of set from the beginning. I brought up concerns that, what about alternative health options? What about not even having this as an option? What about not having a massive vaccine campaign?
What did they say? Well, I'm real curious. Did they just say that's not part of the plan, or move on, or they just try to ignore you?
Well, in these smaller groups, they wrote it down as a concern, and we did make sure we drove it home to them, but they kept trying to bring back the focus to the question that was to be answered, and that was sort of an out of bounds question, if you will. They kept trying to bring it back to should go fast, medium, or slow. So that's kind of how they tried to control
fit the report
debate.
They were looking for. This is I'm taking some of that. So what I get from that is they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and again, what I see a lot of times in the public debate, limit the options and control. But that you don't have to. That's just what I take from that.